In the audience, we're pleased you're here. To those of you who are watching on Channel 7 HCTV, we're honored to have you sitting in on our council meeting tonight. Our first item of business is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Mayor Pro Tem John Williams.
Stand and bow our heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this night that you've given us, Lord. We thank you for Haltom City. We thank you for the good things we've got. We thank you for the rain that we've got this week, Lord. We pray as we go through this meeting, Lord, that you'll open our eyes and open our hearts and let us make the decisions that not will be good for us, but for Haltom City as a whole, Lord. Go as we go our separate ways home and give us a safe journey back there. We ask these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item for consideration by the council tonight is the consent agenda. Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move that we pass the consent agenda. I will be abstaining on items number 3 and 4, as I have previously discussed with the council at the last council meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Averett.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda with Councilmember Markham abstaining from item 3 and 4. If you'll register your vote, gentlemen. And it passes by unanimous vote. We come now to the Visitor Citizens Forum. We have 3 speakers' cards filled out, and before we begin to call the speakers forward, I have the usual statement to read. This time is set aside for any person having business before the council that is not scheduled on the agenda to have an opportunity to speak to the council. A speaker's card, request card, must be completed and submitted to the city secretary prior to the start of the meeting. All comments must be directed toward the presiding officer rather than to individual council members or staff. Each speaker must limit their comments to the subject matter listed on the speaker's request card, and a 5-minute time limit will be granted. It's important for you and the audience to understand that the council cannot discuss or debate any issue brought forth at this time, nor can any formal action be taken, as it is not a posted agenda item in accordance with the open meetings law here in Texas. Our first speaker tonight is Stephen Davis. The subject he wishes to speak on is the police. Mr. Davis, if you'll come forward to state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to address the council.
Yes, sir. My name's Stephen Davis. I've had a run-in with y'all's police department here a little over a month ago. I've called the mayor's hotline. They send their review board out, and I took 2 hours off work to talk to the police officers. When you have a police officer turn around and follow you doing a complete U-turn and you haven't done nothing wrong, and that keeps up, I've been stopped twice. Since then, I've quit driving my truck. All this has stopped. I've been driving my mom's Lincoln Continental. The same police officers see me driving that Lincoln. They do not turn around. They do not follow me. They do not stop me. After talking to the review board, when they come by the house, they told me that they do not have a code of ethics or no rules and guidelines that they have to go by. Since then, I have dealt with the FBI, the DEA, and federal marshals, and every law enforcement has a rule of guidelines that they have to go by and they have to follow. But to hearsay, Haltom City Police Department, they don't. And I asked them, I just like it to stop, because I haven't done anything wrong, sir. You know, and everything. It's just, I don't feel like I got a justifiable answer from the review board. Because they just said, well, we'll see what we can do. That means they're not going to do nothing about it. And I've called the mayor's hotline. The only response I got was a call from the police department. That's it. I've had one police officer pull up the neighbor's house next door after this has happened about 20 years ago pull up, open his car door, have his window down, have a nickel-plated .45 pointing at me, saying, "Get out of the MF car before I blow your MF head off now." And he admitted that he was in the wrong, but you know what? I did not get no public apology for that. I was arrested for resisting arrest, and here I am leaning against my car with my handcuffed behind my back. This happened to me here in Haltom City. That's the reason why I have no more faith in the police department of Haltom City. I called them out to the house at one time. It took them over 6.5 hours to get to my house from here to Oakwood Street. I had people follow me, which I'm not scared of people following me. You know, it's just the ideal fact is you have a police department here that has virtually no legality for the regulations and the laws that are set by the state and the federal government that they have to go by, and they don't do it, is what I'm saying. And that's my complaint, and it's a legible complaint. I'm going to start driving my truck again. And like I told the officers, if I'm pulled over one more time, I will go to outside source. I will go to the FBI, because I've seen enough stuff that the police department has done that is illegal. And I have that right to do so. And that's my complaint. And I'd just like to see if y'all would mind checking into it to see the results that y'all get. Because I know several people that they have pulled over, they started harassing, and I know one thing for this: when the city of Haltom City Police Department gets it in for you, they won't let up. I know that for a fact too, because I've lived here 39 years, and I know what's going on, and I've seen what's happened going on. And that's my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. As I mentioned before you began speaking, because this is not an item posted on the agenda, we cannot publicly make any comments to you tonight. I would encourage the chief of police, who is the head of that department, to meet with you out here at the back or back in the corner. Would that be appropriate?
Absolutely.
And address your concerns with him, if you would, Mr. Davis.
Okay, I'll meet him out
Okay, back in the hallway. Thank you very much. Our second speaker tonight, Mr. Glenn Baker. His subject is the new Trinity Cemetery. Mr. Baker, if you will, come forward and give your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Glenn Baker, 5612 East Belknap, Haltom City. Mr. Mayor, here recently you stated that you would like renovation to new Trinity Cemetery. You state that you would like for this to be done, however, we don't have the funds. Well, recently we closed down the 8-liners, and you made the statement that you didn't care because you would just do without that money. I think the thing about it is that the folks that operate the 8-liners are willing to help in community projects. They have before very silently, but are willing to help and to give the funds necessary to help fund projects that the city needs funds for the good of the community, not for just one particular group in particular, but for the good of the community. And I would like for y'all to, if we were open again, this is what the city needs. As a community, we would be happy to contribute whatever we could, whether it be labor or funds or whatever we can to get things renovated and done for the benefit of the city. So I would like for the city council to think about some of the revenues that could be generated and possibly some things that could be worked out and to generate that revenue to do some of the projects that the city needs, and that probably should be funded by private sources other than using tax dollars from the citizens, that we have other concerns that need to be addressed, and that's what those tax dollars are for. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Our third and final speaker, Mr. Jack Lewis, on the subject of council member conduct, August 13th, 01 meeting. Mr. Lewis, if you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Jack Lewis. I reside at 4600 Savelle in Haltom City. After watching the video of the council meeting of August the 13th, 2001, I was dismayed to see Councilmember Williams come to the citizens' podium during the time set aside for citizens to express concerns to the council. He had listed as his subject on the speaker's card, and I quote, uplifting our city. He did not check the for or against this subject on the card. He then spent approximately 5 minutes attacking the Star-Telegram, making light of the Texas Silver-Haired legislature, and verbally attacking me personally. As elected officials should be held accountable to a higher level of conduct. In fact, this statement was made during this disparaging speech. I find this very disappointing. But after reading Proverbs 26, verse 4 and 5, I choose not to respond to this council member's behavior at this time. However, I would request that the minutes of August the 13th, 2001 be corrected in regards to Mr. Williams' citizen speaker's request card. He had put down uplifting the city as a subject. He never addressed this subject. His subject matter was Jack Lewis, and he checked the against box. And he is shaking his head now. He is agreeing with that, so I ask that the minutes be corrected to properly, and this is the official minutes, that's the way they read. I would also remind all of us to read the instructions on the speaker's request card, which states, and I quote, all speakers must limit his or her comments to the specific matter as noted on this card and must refrain, that means to cease, from personal attacks toward any individual, elected or a private citizen, of which I am. And I'm also an elected member of the Silver-Haired legislature, and we are elected every 2 years, and if a person has not voted in that election, that's a problem we have in our regular elections too. We can't get enough people to vote, but we will continue to work with that. Okay, I also want to thank the mayor for reminding us at the beginning of this time set aside for citizens to address the council, to address the mayor. And we cannot, or you cannot respond or take action, as state law requires that the action being placed on the agenda and posted 72 hours prior to the meeting. Well, this council member violated, in my opinion, state law by addressing, I guess, himself. He was vacant from his seat, and he did state he did not resign. So I want to thank you for your attention. And basically what I'm wanting is the people on this council to keep my name out of the public. I'm John Q. Citizen. I'm a Silver-Haired legislator. I'm working on the issues for our our seniors here in Haltom City, in the county, and in Texas. And this campaign rhetoric needs to be kept to the time of the campaigns, and let's stay with the issues. So I respectfully ask this council to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Item number 6 on the agenda tonight, we move now away from the Visitor Citizens Forum and go to the public hearings. Mr. Elfrink, if you will, item number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we have here as item number 6 is a public hearing we are required by law to conduct, and it is for consideration and/or action regarding the fiscal year 2001-2002 budget for the City of Haltom City, the Crime Control and Prevention District, and the Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Mayor, you need to only open the public hearing, allow citizens, if any, who wish to speak regarding this subject, and then close the public hearing. And I will point out that there will be one more quarter-page advertisement in the newspaper in the next few days, also in compliance with state law advertising. There will be a vote on this budget at our September 24th meeting. That will be the final vote. We will also have a vote tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I will open this time, I will open the public hearing to give consideration regarding the fiscal year 2001-2002 budget for the City of Haltom City, for the Crime Control and Prevention District, and for the Economic Development Corporation. Do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council at this time on the subject? Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing. No action will be taken on this matter at this point. We will address this a little bit later in the council meeting. Item number 7.
Item number 7, Mr. Mayor, is a zoning action for consideration regarding the application of Gene Cates for a zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District to the C5 Commercial District on the EPT Lots 1 and 2, Block 3, West Haltom City Addition, containing approximately .225 acres of land, located on the south side of Northeast 28th Street, locally known as 5016 Northeast 28th Street. This item has been reviewed by our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Planning Director, and is recommended for approval by the council.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing at this time regarding the application of Gene Cates for this zoning change from C3 to C5. Councilmember Williams.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. In accordance with state law, I would like to recuse myself from the next 4 items because I own property that's within 200 foot of each of the next 4 items.
Okay, the record so reflects your recusal. Do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to speak for the request of Mr. Cates for the zoning change? Do we have anyone who wishes to speak against? There being no one to speak for or against, the public hearing is closed at this time, and we'll move to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve 02001-06715.
We have a motion. Councilmember Markham.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? There being none, if you'll register your vote. And it passes by unanimous vote with Councilmember Williams abstaining. Item number 8.
Mr. Mayor, item number 8 is a zoning action also for consideration and/or action regarding the application of Gene Cates for a zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District to the C5 Commercial District on the WPT of Lots 1 and 2, Block 3, West Haltom City Addition, containing approximately .2812 acres of land, located on the southeast corner of Northeast 28th Street and Field Street, locally known as 5000 Northeast 28th Street. This item also has been reviewed by our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Planning Director, and is recommended for approval.
I'll open the public hearing at this time for consideration of Mr. Cates' application on the item that Mr. Elfrink just referenced. Anyone in the audience wish to speak either for or against the request on the zoning change? There being none, we now move to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we pass ordinance number 0-2001-068-15.
Councilmember Hurley.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. If you'll register your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote. Item number 9, Mr. Elfrink.
Item number 9 is consideration and/or action regarding the application of Gene Cates for a zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District to the C5 Commercial District on Lot 20, Block 3, West Haltom City Addition, containing approximately .1845 acres of land, located on the southwest corner of Northeast 28th Street and Kings Avenue, locally known as 5020 Northeast 28th Street. This item also has been reviewed by our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Planning Director, and is recommended for approval to the council.
Do we have anyone in the audience, now that I've opened the public hearing on this item of request for Mr. Gene Cates to change the zone from C3 to C5? Anyone wishing to speak either for or against this request? There being none, I close the public hearing, and I move now to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Hurley.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 02001-069-15.
We have a motion. Councilmember Markham.
Second.
Motion second. Gentlemen, register your vote. And that is a unanimous vote. Item number 10.
Item number 10, Mr. Mayor, is for consideration and/or action regarding the application of Bobby Cates for a zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District to the C5 Commercial District on Lot 1, Block 4, West Haltom City Addition, containing approximately .1845 acres of land located on the southeast corner of Northeast 28th Street and Kings Avenue, locally known as 5030 Northeast 28th Street. This item also has been reviewed by our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Planning Director, and is recommended for approval.
The application of Mr. Bobby Cates for this zoning change, the public hearing on that request is opened at this time. Anyone wishing to speak either for or against this request for zoning change? There being none, the public hearing is now closed and we move to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. Move that we pass ordinance number 0-2001-070-15.
Councilmember Henderson.
That's for a second.
We have a motion and a second. If you'll register your vote. And that is a unanimous vote. And finally, under the public hearing section, item number 11.
Item number 11, Mr. Mayor, is for consideration and/or action regarding the application of Morton Jeffrey for a zoning change request from the C3 Commercial District to the M2 Heavy Industrial District on Lot 2, Block 1, Denton Highway Addition, containing approximately .704 acres of land located on the west side of Denton Highway, Highway 377, locally known as 5929 Denton Highway. This item has also been reviewed by our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Planning Director, and is recommended for approval.
I open the public hearing now on Mr. Morton Jeffrey's request for zoning change from C3 to M2 on this particular piece of property. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak either for or against this request? Okay, there being none, the public hearing is closed. We move now to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. Move that we pass ordinance number 0-2001-071-15.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilmember Jennings.
It's for a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? If you will, there being none, if you'll register your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote. Gentlemen, do we have announcements or any events? Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to make everyone aware of the fact that the Haltom City Animal Shelter, the new animal shelter, will be opening December the 1st, will be the grand opening. And in conjunction with this, the Animal Control Board has decided that they're going to offer for sale bricks like we have outside of City Hall here at $25 a piece, and I believe they can carry up to 25 characters per brick. Anyone interested in being part of that needs to contact City Hall here at 222-7700. And I don't remember, Chuck, I believe we had talked about going through the City Secretary's offices. Were you wanting them to go through the Assistant City Secretary, Helen, or how would you like that done?
Her number is 222-7754.
222-7754. And they can give you information on that, and I believe Fran Burns also has the information available on that.
Anything further, Councilmember Jennings? Mr. Elfrink, I think you had an announcement to make.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to announce very proudly that the Haltom City Police Department is holding a grand opening of its new storefront location, which is located on Denton Highway. I'm sorry, I don't have the specific address right now. You'll see it by the new sign. 3520. Thank you. 3520 Denton Highway. It's on the east side of the road. This Saturday, they will have a grand opening from 12 to 3 o'clock. I'd like to invite all members of the public and the council, of course, to attend that grand opening and see what we've done there. It really looks good. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, this Saturday morning about 8 o'clock, the Beautification Board is going to be meeting up in Denton Highway at Broadway at the Kroger store, and they've adopted the spot from there up to Browning, and they will be picking the debris up off the side of the road up there to help beautify that part of the city. And the other announcement I have is last Friday night, Haltom High School kicked off their It Takes a City campaign. And they played their first game at Carroll. We've got a real good start on the season. We've got a little work to do with our record, but as we were coming home Friday evening, the tower up at 820 and Haltom Road was, if anybody saw that tower, and it was a real strange orange-looking color. That's an arrangement we've made with the high school. That night when they go to play, we put colored disc over the lights that shine up on the tower, and if you come in later that night and if that tower is still orange, we won. If that tower is back to the white color, we didn't win. So if y'all came in about 11 o'clock the other night, they were changing lights on it. But this Friday night, we plan on the orange being up all night long.
Councilmember Markham, you had your light on a moment ago.
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. I was all set to visit the police storefront opening, but the interim city manager decided to steal my thunder, and have to talk to him about that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Henderson.
I would just like to bring before everybody the reopening or opening of the Broadway Park improvements dedication is going to be September the 22nd at 10 a.m., which is Saturday. If you've driven by Broadway Park in the last couple of months, you've noticed some great improvements that we've done there, and we will be celebrating that opening on the 22nd at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. excuse me. And that's all.
Okay. Got a lot of good things going on in Haltom City, a lot of exciting things. We hope you'll want to participate, attend all of these as we celebrate some great accomplishments in our city. Any other announcements, members of the council, staff? Okay, there being none, we move to item number 12. That is to give consideration and take action regarding approval of an ordinance for the reopening of Daisy Lane. This is second reading of this ordinance. Mr. Elfrink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council has dealt with this problem for quite some time over the past few months. What we have in front of the council as part of the agenda packet is an ordinance that will reopen Daisy Lane and basically restore it to the condition that it was prior to any action being taken on it.
Okay, we have a number of speakers cards, and I'll just call these individuals forward as in the order that I've received them at my position. The first of these, Margie Parkey. Margie, if you'd come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes, please, to address the council in this regard.
My name is Margie Parkey. I live at 404 Charleston Court in Hurst, Texas. The reason that I came tonight is because some of these homeowners have been working on this for such a long time, and some of them couldn't be here, and I just couldn't see an injustice being done without offering my help. But as you just stated, if they're going to open the street up, that's what I came to discuss with you. So I really don't need to speak if that's the way it's going to be. Is it going to be hot topped as it was before?
Ms. Parkey, at this point, we don't have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
And what we were wanting from you is just any comment you had, if you prefer, whatever your preference is with regard to whether it's hot-topped or not. That's what we want to hear from you, and any other comments you have.
I was wanting the road put back as it was, as I had stated on this is my third time to come to City Council. I grew up in that neighborhood. I still have family in that neighborhood, and I did use that road, and there's always been, back and forth. Was it hot-topped? And yes, it was. So what I came for tonight is just to make sure that this was going to be reopened so that these people and the school children could use it as a street as it was before. Thank you.
Okay, members of the council, any of you have questions for Ms. Parkey? Comments? Thank you, Ms. Parkey.
Thank you.
The second card I have here before me, Coleman Sutton. Mr. Sutton, if you would come forward, give us your name and address and your comments regarding Daisy Lane.
Hi, my name is Coleman Sutton. I live at 4001 Creech Street, Haltom City, Texas. I am a retired chief electrical inspector for the city of Fort Worth. I'm also a retired electrical instructor for Tarrant County Junior College. That was only to give my qualifications on what I'm here to speak about. I'm here at the request of some of the residents and citizens of Oakwood Street. I'm also here on behalf of some of my grandchildren that live, play, and may be crossing where the fence is located. At a prior meeting of this council, TXU requested that this fence be grounded or taken down as soon as possible, as it is a hazard. I'm here to inform the council that the fence has not been taken down or has not been grounded as according to the National Electrical Code or National Safety Code. Okay? I also have a picture taken over 2 weeks after Councilman John Williams requested that the bars be taken off the fence so that bicycles and people could pass through safely. It clearly shows that this has not been done. Okay? And I will not go into the technical terms of why it would be so hazardous for this not to be grounded. But it is my estimation that it is a hazard because it is not grounded under them highline wires. Okay? And we've also called fire department, and code enforcement has been called on this, and I think that your electrical inspector will agree that this is not, that it is a hazard. And thank you.
Members of the council, any questions, comments for Mr. Sutton? Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Our next speaker is Ms. Alan Burkhart. Ms. Burkhart, if you'd come forward at this time, state your name and address for the record. And you too have 5 minutes to address the council.
I'm Alan Burkhart, and I live at 2101 Oakwood, and I am proud to hear that they are fixing the road. But I just wanted to let you know that that road has been used a lot because it's full of chug holes. Those chug holes don't get there without somebody driving on it. They're not dug up. It's from use. So it has been used. And we want the fence down because it's tacky, it's ugly. And we've had a couple of your council members one said he wouldn't want it in his front yard to look out at all the time. And I have another one that has told me that he would take a truck and pull it down. And I'm not calling no names, but they know who they are. And I asked him, I said, go ahead and do it. He said, no, everybody knows my truck. So, well, I'm telling you, it's an ugly sight to be seen. And we are proud of our town and our city, and we love our neighborhood. And we would like to keep it as neat and proper as the Sparlins and everybody else keeps theirs. They don't have a fence like that around their place, and we don't want it around ours because it is tacky. And we'd like to see y'all fix it. There's no reason we can't have it just like it was. We don't ask for a big spending. Everybody for the last over 36 years that I know of has used Daisy Lane as a driveway entrance and never had no problem with it until this last couple of years. So we're satisfied with just getting it fixed or repaired so that we can have a road that and make our neighborhood something we can be proud of, just as you're proud of your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhart. Any member of the council have any questions or comments for Ms. Burkhart? There being none, our next speaker is Shirley Smith. Ms. Smith, if you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. Okay, you withdraw your request Our next speaker's card, Ruth Ann Sparlin. Ms. Sparlin, if you'll come forward again, your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes also.
My name is Ruth Ann Sparlin. I live at 3428 Meadow Oaks Drive. I personally don't know much about politics. I've been told it's okay to do things for your friends, make promises to your family, etc. And that's what 8 months on Daisy Lane has gotten us. My husband and I have been working on plans for the improvement and upkeep of Daisy Lane since December of 1999. We did our homework. What was Daisy Lane? A 100-foot easement granted to TXU in the early 1900s. By plat in 1941, the entire 100-foot easement was named Daisy Lane. The plat does not show Daisy Lane as a street, only as an easement. Do we just assume lane means street? An overgrown field full of weeds, broken beer bottles, cans, old clothing, socks, paper, broken toys, etc. You name it, I have personally picked it up. A place where unsupervised children came to play, bringing with them old boards, tires, Coke cans, shovels to dig holes. No parents ever came to clean up the damage caused by their children. A muddy dirt track for go-karts, motorcycles, and four-wheel drive pickups. The holes dug by neighborhood children made for great sport. Let's go mudding. The city did not accept responsibility for maintaining the property. TXU did not accept responsibility for maintaining the property. And most importantly, the residents of the neighborhood did not take responsibility for maintaining the property, which just went on year after year. An eyesore in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Jim and I accepted responsibility for half of Daisy Lane, which faces Layton. We met with the city, obtained approval from TXU, removed trash, debris, filled holes, picked up rocks, etc. Even though the city closed Daisy Lane to pedestrian and vehicular traffic, we conversed with residents in our neighborhood and were in the process of constructing a walk-through area when some of the people living on Oakwood felt they were being unfairly treated. Now, after 8 months and many hours, the council who, in January, established after much review and consideration that Daisy Lane had never been constructed or maintained for vehicular or pedestrian traffic, that its condition could cause safety hazards to life and property, was not needed for emergency travel, and did not impair access to any nearby property, passes a motion to put it back the way it was. The council also agreed to deed property to homeowners on the northern side of Daisy Lane. One has a garage on or about the property line, another a carport, and our property line is 2 feet from the front corner of our house. If any one of these properties were to be sold as they are today, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to obtain financing because none of them meet the residential zoning requirement for building lines in the city of Haltom City. Additionally, the council agreed to reimburse us $1,000 for our costs associated with passing of the February ordinance. This past Friday, we were provided 3 detailed drawings from the city. In reviewing the drawings, we expected to see what part of Daisy Lane would be deeded to the adjoining property owners, but what we were provided were 3 detailed plans for a street. We don't recall this directive being part of any motion. At whose request was this done? When TXU stated that a street must be at least 20 feet from their power lines, and the city engineer said the minimum for a street would be 31 feet, and the city zoning ordinance directs that a corner lot in an SF2 single-family residential district must observe 2 front yards of not less than 25 feet, it is apparent that there is not room for a street. Yes, there are areas in the city where streets are closer than this, but in most cases, it is because of street improvement and not to construct a new street. We don't believe that this city would allow a developer to come in and not observe the zoning requirements, and we think the city should be held to the same standards. So after 8 months and counting, where are we? The same unanswered questions still exist. Take the fence down and deed property to owners on the north. How much property and who decides? What happens to the remaining portion of Daisy Lane and who decides? Who accepts responsibilities for the weeds, trash, debris, and how often? The grass still grows and the trash still blows. It will still draw mudders and unsupervised children. Daisy Lane will still, in its current condition, pose safety hazards to life and property. I ask you, who decides and when? It's been 8 months. We believe in Haltom City, proud and progressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sparlin. Our final speaker on the subject, filled out a speaker's card tonight, is Jim Sparlin. Mr. Sparlin, if you'll come forward and give your name and address for the record. And you two have 5 minutes.
Jim Sparling, 3428 Meadow Oaks, Haltom City. I'm also a licensed master electrician, and that thing has so much steel in the ground, there's no safety hazard involved, and nobody needs to be afraid of it, in spite of all the hysteria we'd like to generate. The reason there's chug holes out there in that street is because they were mudding up and down, not because they're used as a legally constituted drive. There's ordinance, we cannot use a dirt street here in Haltom City. And I'd like to address the street they put down as in the plans here. They use a common approach. That approach is really close to the house, and other people use it for a driveway, and there's no place to put their cars. And there probably at some point will be children present there. If they're really worried about children, they'll be playing out there, not just traveling back and forth. Of course, a lot hadn't been kept up. And I guess that the residents of Oakwood are used to so much beauty over there that they'd like a nice chain link fence across here. I'm sure that's what the problem is there. I realize all these people in Hearst have a real big problem with what we're doing here in Haltom City. And I'd just like for you to consider our feelings on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone on the council with question or comment for Mr. Sparling? I failed to ask that with regard to Ms. Sparling. Anyone question or comment for her? Okay. We have all of the people who had requested to speak on this subject. They have now done so. I'm ready to entertain a motion with regard to item number 12, and let me read what this states: to consider and/or take action regarding approval of an ordinance for the reopening of Daisy Lane and authorizing the city engineer to continue the process of quitclaiming right-of-way property to adjacent property owners abutting Daisy Lane. Gentlemen, I'm ready to receive a motion. Councilmember Hurley.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2001-062-16, which basically reopens Daisy Lane, whereas the City Council of the City of Haltom City, after careful study and consideration, has determined that it is in the public interest and welfare to reopen Daisy Lane as a public right-of-way. Further, the last paragraph is that Public Works Director is hereby directed to assure that all obstructions on Daisy Lane are removed.
You've heard Councilmember Hurley's motion. Councilmember Patino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is for a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being no discussion on the motion, gentlemen, if you will, register your vote. And that motion fails with Councilmember Jennings, Henderson, Williams, and Markham voting against, and Councilmember Hurley, Averett, and Patino voting in favor. Mr. Olson, if I could, can I open the floor back up for a motion in regard to this issue?
Yes, Mayor, since the council's taking no action, affirmative action, you can open it up. You've got other items with this agenda item besides just approval of that ordinance.
Okay. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for all the time that they've spent on this. I know we've had a lot of hours invested, a lot of driving, a lot of checking. I know there's been a lot of motion in it and accusals of politics, but when we sit up here in these 7 places and the mayor's place makes 8, we do what we think would be best for every citizen in Haltom City and not for just a few. So I would like to try to make another motion that might carry. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 0-2001-062-16 to reopen Daisy Lane to pedestrian traffic only and close it to vehicle traffic. Within my motion, I'd like to have the metal fence that was erected to be removed within 14 days. There will be no vehicles traffic, and barrier barricades and posts will be put up around the property at both ends at both Layton and Oakwood. The city will erect signs saying no motorized traffic. I'd like to have the sidewalk, when it's planned, to be in a serpentine figure to keep anybody from coming through there at a higher rate of speed. Have staff prepare plans to place a sidewalk suitable for TXU and decide with what park equipment we'd like to put in there, and make sure that we seed this next spring to make sure that there's grass in it, and to ensure that our Haltom City maintenance people will maintain this and keep it mowed in a proper manner where this will look like a park and have a place for children to play in. That's into my motion. Now I've got a comment to go after that.
Okay, you've heard Councilmember Williams' motion. Do we have a second to that motion? Councilmember Markham.
Second.
We have a motion. Councilmember Hurley?
That was for a second.
Okay. Councilmember Jennings?
I had one question. Councilmember Williams' motion did stipulate that the fence come down within a 14-day period. Is part of your motion that the city still offer to reimburse the Sparlins for the fence, or is that not part of the motion?
I would amend that to my motion, yes.
Okay.
You did amend your motion to reflect that?
Yes, sir.
Do it. Who seconded that?
I did.
And
Go along with that.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, if I
Yes,
may,
please.
would that still be sticking with the cap that we had placed on it earlier at $1,000? Councilmember Williams?
Yes, sir.
Would it still be at capped at $1,000? I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
While we're discussing this, I would like to have those barriers put up as soon as possible by the city to keep vehicular traffic out of there. As some of the people that showed interest in safety of the children, I think for all parties interested in this, it would be the best compromise we could make. If the city manager could see to it that those posts and barricades are made up. And also, in my motion, I would like to include that when the posts come around to the side, that they leave the people on the north side of Layton Avenue and the people on the north side of Oakwood adequate room to motivate in and out of their driveways, so there will be a post fence along beside their property as well.
Is that simply discussion on the motion, or is that a third now amendment to the motion?
That's the third amendment to motion.
Okay.
Make sure it gets done.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second with those three amendments added to it. And my question is, does everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilmember Patino, before we take our vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being consistent with the desires of the citizens that were at the town hall meeting, and they requested that they would like, the majority wanted Daisy Lane back like it was, being a street there. All they wanted just to get it fixed, level it. They didn't even ask to be asphalted. So therefore, I was elected to be the voice of the people, and that's what I'm trying to do, so I will be voting on this.
Councilmember Hurley.
Mayor, this will be the second reading on this ordinance, is it not?
That is correct, Mr. Attorney.
This is the final reading on the ordinance.
So for the benefit of those in the audience, when this vote is taken, this issue with regard to Daisy Lane has been addressed once and for all. It is closed. Any further discussion on the motion with the three amendments? Councilmember Williams.
I would just like to tell the citizens that the city will be responsible for keeping this up for you. If it is not, most of y'all have my phone number or my work number or the city manager. Feel free to call us. We want this to be something y'all can be proud of, something that you can use, something that will be safe. And we don't want it back in the shape, as Mr. Hardy said, what it was. I went out there and I think I stood in Miss Burkhart's front yard, and what I saw of what it was, I don't want it back like what it was with all the stuff grown up. I would like for it to be something nice. And that's the reason I made the motion in that manner.
Any further questions, comments on the motion before I call for the vote? There being none, gentlemen, if you will register your vote. Everyone registered their vote? 6 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries. And with that, we will take an 8-minute recess. Some of us need to take a stretch break. We'll reconvene at 8:30. To meeting. We come now to item number 13. Mr. Elfrink, I believe you have an explanation here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very brief explanation. On item number 13, it is the actual budget document with the fund summaries and such for our 2001-2002 budget. We have a memo that summarizes the changes that the council requested at our work session, and just ask that the motion that is made to adopt this budget be sure to include funding for the park maintenance worker through the Economic Development Corporation, or a statement, as was mentioned at pre-council, to adopt the budget with the recommendations that were made by the city manager in pre-council.
Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve 02-001-07203, subject to staff comments and corrections as stipulated in pre-council.
Have a motion. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's for a second.
Councilmember Avery.
Mine was for a second there.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Okay. There being no discussion, if you'll register your vote. And that is unanimous vote in favor. Item number 14.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 14 is the separate ordinance that is required by state law, which must follow the adoption of the budget, which sets the tax rate and levies the taxes to support the budget that we just passed. I will just point out that this tax rate is the same as the one we have for the current year, 0.45575 for each $100 of property valuation in the city.
Okay, you have heard Mr. Elfrink's explanation. I'll entertain a motion at this time with regard to ordinance number 2001-073-03. Councilmember Hurley.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 2001-073-03.
Councilmember Markham.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any discussion? There being none, gentlemen, if you'll register your vote. And that is by unanimous vote approved. Item number 15.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 15 is also related to the budget. For the past several years, we have used the issuance of short-term debt to purchase large vehicles and some large cost items such as software, as we have in this budget. This item is for the issuance of the tax notes that will support the purchase of the equipment and software that was mentioned in the budget that was passed just earlier in this meeting.
Okay, you have heard the explanation of item number 15. Gentlemen, a motion, please. Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. Move that we pass ordinance number 0-2001-074-03.
Have a motion. Councilmember Jennings.
For a second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, if you'll register your vote, and that is, it carries by unanimous vote. Item number 16.
Mr. Mayor, what we have here is an item that was brought to the council's attention so that we could perhaps correct an oversight that was made with regard to our street construction project in the area of Cary Lane and Fossil Drive. I would like to go in just a little bit of background on the Cary Lane issue, in that it would have been reconstructed as an asphalt street originally. However, we were very fortunate when the contractor who bid the project had an excess capacity for the installation of concrete street, and so he offered at that time to reconstruct Cary Lane in a complete concrete fashion for less than the cost of doing an asphalt street. So I'd like to point out that that is the reason that Cary Lane was done in concrete. I will also point out then that, as we all know, Fossil Drive was done in concrete completely from Haltom Road to Beach Street. The small stretch of Fossil Drive that runs from Haltom Road just past Kerry Lane where it dead ends was originally planned to be left in its original condition because it didn't seem to be too bad at the time. However, at the completion of the reconstruction of Kerry Lane, when we attempted to hook into the sewer main that is underneath that portion of Fossil Drive, we discovered that the sewer main there was completely deteriorated and had to be completely replaced, which required the trenching through the middle of that portion of Fossil Drive, which all of the work that was done in relation to that basically destroyed the rest of the street that was remaining. What we have been planning to do now at this time is to do a 2-inch asphalt overlay at that portion of Fossil Drive without doing the additional curb and gutter that is missing along the 800-foot stretch of that portion of Fossil Drive. However, our city engineer has given us actually 3 additional scenarios that you can consider. Option number 2 would be to do the 2-inch asphalt overlay and add curb and gutter and drive approaches where it's missing, and this is approximately half of the 800-foot stretch, so it's about 800 additional feet actually, because 800 on each side. This would be an amount of $29,000, which is about $15,000 above the cost that we have now doing asphalt only. We have 2 other options that are quite cost prohibitive. I won't go into those in great detail, except that the first one is 6 inches of asphalt, complete reconstruction of curb and gutter. It's $111,000. And the 4th option is all of the above with concrete pavement and sidewalks for $204,600. With that said, I'll let the council consider this item, and myself and the city engineer and the public works director are here to address any questions if they may come up.
Before we go to your staff for questions the council may have, we have 3 speakers' cards filled out of individuals wishing to address this. The first is Mr. Sam Tork. Mr. Tork, if you'll come forward at this time to the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to address the council.
Yeah, yes, sir. We moved Sammy Tork, 5125 Fossil Drive. We moved there in 1950, and when we moved there, Kerry Lane was just it wasn't even, it was just you just barely could drive down it. And but we've finished from like I say, from B Street to Haltom Road, and then we're going from Fossil Drive to Walthall. Let's just finish that 1 block. I've got a sidewalk, I've got curbing, but let's go ahead and finish this 1 block. Be good. And, we're proud, we're progressive. Let's just finish the project. Thank you.
Any questions, gentlemen, for Mr. Tork? Any comments? Our second speaker's card, John Rogers. John, if you'll come forward and give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to address the council.
I'm John Rogers, live at 5108 Fossil Drive. Last city council meeting, we addressed this for the public forum, and y'all sent us back with the city engineer, Greg. I'm not even going to try and say his last name. He was very helpful and insightful as to the funding and the projects of the other part of Fossil and Kerry Lane, and we understand all that. He said the other part of Fossil went about $30,000 over budget, and I understand the big scheme of things, that's not a lot of money, so they went ahead and concreted it. And we understand that he said Kerry Lane wasn't exactly paid for by Haltom City, but by the state, I think is what he said, or the federal government. Now, November 6th, we're having a bond election for, I believe, $4 million of it is going to be allocated for street repair and maintenance and upkeep. So, so there's going to be some money coming up pretty soon, and it's going to get approved because it always gets approved. Because, like they all say, we're proud and progressive. And the city's got more income this year because you're not raising taxes. We appreciate that, but we're still paying more taxes because my house personally went up $15,000 this year. So I'll be paying more taxes on that. So there's more income there. And like they were saying, not all the houses need new curbs. I believe only 5 of them need new curbs, so you'll be saving money if you don't put curbs in front of all the houses. One thing Greg explained to us was that every 2 years the city goes through and rates all the streets on a scale from like 1 to 100, 100 being good, 1 being really bad. Last year they did the rating. Haltom, Fossil, our part of Fossil was a 52, 53, something like that, which he said would be 4 to 6 years before it got completely renovated. Well, I was okay with that at the time, but I asked him, since they're going to blacktop it and come through next year and rate it again, well, won't that raise the rating? He said, yes, it will. I'm like, well, how long is it going to be before we get it fixed with curbs and gutters in? And we figured about 10 years. Well, I wasn't too happy with that at all, because I'm one of the few people that don't have curbs, and I'm not in a financial position to put in curbs myself like some of my neighbors were. And since I'm up here and we're telling you what we want, I'll tell you, I like the idea about concrete streets and curbs and sidewalks. Now, Ray doesn't like sidewalks because I'd knock out his fancy mailbox, which probably costs more than my whole house. So I think Ray's going to vote against the sidewalks. And I would like speed bumps because we figured up between Fossil Road and Cary, we got approximately 20 kids in just that 2-block area. So we'd like speed bumps in there too while we're on the subject of fixing the streets. And but I think that's about all I got to say. Oh, one more thing is this curbing over on Cary Lane is really causing me some problems because I'm starting to suffer from a curb envy. I'm starting to go over there and harass Charlie the horse, and he's not getting too happy with me. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Questions or comments from Mr. Rogers from the council? Our third and final speaker on the subject, Sandy Tork. Ms. Tork, if you'll come forward at this time, give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to address the council.
Mayor and Council, Sandy Tork, 5125 Fossil Drive. And I appreciate, first of all, whoever turned the air conditioning back down, because I couldn't even quit shaking. I don't have much to add to what John and my husband said, except we would like for you to reconsider the concrete, just simply, and I know budget-wise, 2001, it was not figured in. Now the new budget is coming around. Surely there's enough money somewhere in there for another little half block to do it in concrete and make us match everything else. We're close to the new park. Everyone going north and south on Haltom Road, all you have to do is glance one way. It's a beautiful street, modern. You look our direction, it's still country homey. I think you should please try to find the funding somewhere deep in a hole somewhere that you buried to finish this little segment the way it should be done. And then the whole Fossil project all the way around to Cary will be one consistent street. I just can't understand when the Fossil Street project began why this end was left out to begin with. It does not benefit the looks of the city. In order to be proud and progressive, I think you need to carry the look all the way through. If you were an interior decorator, you would not stop with a blue curtain here and a red curtain on the next window. That's about it. Just, we appreciate anything you can do.
Thank you, Ms. Tork. Any questions or comments from Ms. Tork? Okay, there being none, the citizens have addressed the council with regard to this issue. I'm now ready, Mr. City Manager, is there a need for your staff to add any information? Or maybe I should ask council, do you have any question for staff before we entertain a motion? Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question that was brought up, I did go by and look at the street today. I did notice that there were 6 to 8 places that do need curbs, and there are places there that already have curb and gutter. Question for staff would be, if we did determine to go in there and redo the street, someone had mentioned possibly leaving the curb and gutters that are there and adding the ones that aren't. My question would be, would there be a necessity there to remove existing curb and gutters to install the ones that are not there at this point? In other words, were we going to have to start from ground one on curb and gutters, or will we be able to go in and add to what's there?
Almost none of the curb and gutter that's there would have to be removed. There may be some places that would be cut off to make better looking tie-ins.
Okay.
There are a couple of places where there are curb and there's no drive approach.
Right.
We may have to like saw back in some of those areas, but the curb and gutter that's there for the most part would work.
Okay. That was my main concern. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Well, Councilmember James was a little luckier than I was. I went last week when we had the 6 inches of rain, and basically what I saw was trying to get off Cary Lane back on the Haltom Road without stopping. It's impossible to get through there. I do know that. I know if I lived down on Cary Lane, or if I was Charlie the horse, I wouldn't want to go down that road. It's in pitiful shape. I don't know when we, I believe Fossil going back the other way was all planned before I came on council, and so that would mean everyone on the council here wasn't here at that time. But if you look where they live and look back the other way, we did a lot of money in concrete, get a lot of money in landscaping. We moved the street one way or the other to accommodate some trees and stuff to keep them taking the trees out. I think they got 800 foot, is that right?
Little over, about 820.
I know they want a new street, and I know that they want a concrete street. I've talked to a couple of the residents that live over there. I know what our budget looks like, and I don't find any concrete in our budget, but I also don't think that it would be, in my opinion, a good idea to go in there and put 2 inches of asphalt, because to me that's a patch. I would like to see the curbs and driveway aprons put in, and I guess this would be to the interim city manager. If the ex-city manager may have left his hat here, is there any way in the hat that we have any additional funds, or the grant that we got for Cary, are we going to get one of those for this year? And if so, is it already designated?
Did you just say we got a grant for Cary?
Well, we got a
community development block grant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The current year's project has already been approved and selected by the county. It's Catalpa Street between Haltom Road and Wood Lane, or Wood Street.
The council
1,100
could.
feet.
The council could, at a future date, take a look at the listing of projects that we have included in next year's budget. This is not unheard of. The council could decide to reassess the priorities there, perhaps delay one of those projects 1 year, and use the funding there to do the full, a more complete reconstruction here of thicker asphalt. Although what we have there to do the concrete, it's an extra $81,000 nearly, and that would be a pretty good sized project, or probably several projects that you would have to delay an additional year. I can't address the issue of whether 2 inches is sufficient or not. I'd have to leave that up to our city engineer and or public works director.
Well, what I'm getting at, I guess, is like Mr. Rogers says, the grading of this from 100 being the best and 1 being the worst. And if we go in there and put 2 inches of asphalt in there, that's going to be a temporary fix. It's going to be a patch. And, you know, I think when we looked at this originally, of course, this is hindsight, that we should have went all the way down the street. And when I found out that Cary Lane was going to be concrete, I started scratching my head on that. I couldn't figure out why we'd be concreting that road, because there's not a lot of traffic that goes down either one of those roads. And if we do go with asphalt on this road, we need to make very sure that there's no truck traffic on it whatsoever. And being that, I'd be open to whatever the council has to do on that.
Anything further, Councilmember Williams?
No, sir.
Councilmember Patina, did you have something you needed to say, Mr. Elford?
Well, I would just like to ask the Public Works Director or City Engineer, it's mentioned in the memo that 2 inches of asphalt is the same as what's been done at McLean Street, and unless I'm wrong, there's a fair amount of truck traffic that goes
That's
down
correct.
McLean, and we expect that to hold up, I hope, for a reasonable amount of time.
My prediction was 5 years, and I'll stand by that today.
Okay.
Councilmember Patino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chuck, up here on your option number 2, to replace sewers at curb and gutter driveway approaches, and that's where you have this 2-inch asphalt. And the cost here is at $29,000. How much more live would you add if you added another 2 inches and make it a 4-inch? How much?
About $7,500. $7,500 in addition to the 29.
And how much more life?
How much more?
Oh, how much more life?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're saying 2 years, correction, 2 inches, they will give you about 5 years?
It's hard to make a prediction. You get a substantial amount of your strength in pavement from the subgrade and not from the asphalt. The asphalt, the surface asphalt, doesn't provide an awful lot of strength. It provides a surface that's impenetrable to water, but it doesn't provide a lot of structural strength. The base course of the asphalt, an additional 2 inches would add a considerable amount of strength to that because it has larger aggregate in it. So it would probably at least double the life expectancy.
And if we add the other 2 inches to make it 4 inches, you said it would add the cost about $7,500?
Correct.
So we're looking at what, about 35?
36.
36.5? Mr. Manager, I would be in favor of this option too.
Okay, anything further, Councilmember Patino?
No, sir, that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hate to come back, but we've had some other points brought up, and I'd like to discuss them. You mentioned McLean, and that we're looking at 5 years. That particular stretch of street has numerous heavy trucks coming from MICA Corporation, and from what I've seen just in the short period of time that it's been there, I think your 5 years is a pretty safe assumption. One of the questions that was brought up, Charlie the horse was a colt when Fossil Street got tore up, and he's an old horse now. And my question would be, if the city council determined and somehow we were able to come up with the funding to make this a concrete street, what would that do to the timetable for reconstructing Fossil? Or do we even have the ability? I'm certain we have the ability, but how far in the future would that push the actual reconstruction to do it in concrete?
If we did something like this now, it would put off the possibility of a complete reconstruction with concrete, for instance, at least 10 years.
Okay, but if we did in fact decide to go with concrete right now, how much time would that add to the actual reconstruction versus asphalt? In other words, how much time would it take us to build a concrete street there versus an asphalt street there at this time?
Correct. All right, building a concrete street is something that the city forces cannot do. Okay. Either of these two, actually the first three options, we could do the majority of the work, okay, with the exception of the concrete work. Okay. So, number one, if we built the street, a complete reconstruction with a concrete street, first we'd have to hire an engineer to design that. Okay. That cost is built into the $204,000, but we'd have to have an engineer design it, and basically we'd be starting from scratch. Right. So we'd be talking that street you would not see any further construction on that street probably for 4 to 5 months at the very least.
Okay. I realize it's been an inconvenience, for the time that y'all have had it torn up. 5 months would certainly be a larger convenience, but we have to take into consideration our budgetary constraints, and right now it'd be awful hard for us to come up with $204,000. I certainly see the need for curbs and gutters there. I certainly see the need for driveway approaches, and one of the things that was brought up was the possibility of some speed bumps in that particular area. And I think we have an ordinance on the books now in Haltom City where the citizens can petition, and if you have sufficient backing to get that done, to bring that before the council, certainly the time to do that would be when we were reconstructing that street. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's an 80%. Don't you have to have 80% on a designated street?
I don't remember what the percent is on the percentage.
And it can't be a major thoroughfare.
Correct.
Right, and that being a dead-end street, I find it hard to believe that would be a
low-density residential. It has to have traffic volumes between 300 and 2,000 vehicles per day. It has to, the 85th percentile speed of the traffic has to exceed the speed limit by 2 miles per hour, I believe. So there's some other criteria other than just a petition.
I'm all for doing everything that we can to correct your problem, but I'm also concerned with our budget, and I'd like to give you as much as we possibly can with keeping in mind, what we have to work with here. $30,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but there are times when $30,000 is hard to come up with. The difference between 2 inches of asphalt and 4 inches of asphalt, I have to agree with our engineer and our construction crew here that there's just minimal difference as far as the integrity of the street you're going to get there, and I don't believe y'all are going to have that large of trucks, coming up and down that particular street any more than like McLean would. And I wouldn't want you to think it's a patch, because it's, I've heard some people use the word it's a patch, but basically it's a new approved hard surface that you can drive your vehicle on for 5 to 10 years. It's got to be better than what's there right now. I just can't go with the idea of having to wait another 4 or 5 months and send out and have studies done and award contracts, and then we're going to have to come up with $200,000 to do it. So I would lean in the same direction that Councilmember Patino did, and I would not be opposed to going an extra 2 inches with the asphalt. If it got us another 2 years, then that would be fine. So I would not be opposed to 4 inches on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Williams.
2 questions. One is the material they're putting on highways now that they roll out. I don't know the company's name that makes that.
The fabric?
Right. Does that increase any life to it or put any stability into the property?
We have never used that product here. It's supposed to be an added moisture barrier and provide some the ability to prevent shoving of asphalt. Asphalt tends to move under heavy traffic weight, and it's supposed to improve that ability, but we've never tested that product here. I've seen it used on highways before.
Do you know a cost?
We didn't use it. Pardon me?
You know anything about the cost of it?
I sure don't.
I don't know the cost either. The reason I was talking to Chuck is there was a company at one time that offered to lay some down, but when it actually came time to do it, they never got around to meeting with us, because before I spend a capital outlay like that, most companies will let you do a test section so that we can physically compare it and see if the benefits are really worth what the advertising hype is. But to date, I haven't been able to find a company that's willing to do that.
I got the feeling that it was kind of expensive because all we asked for was enough to do an approach to an intersection. And we typically, if you've ever looked at the asphalt streets that we're building, we typically build that approach the last 30 feet at least out of concrete. That's where you have traffic coming to a stop at a stop sign, and that's where you tend to get that shoving effect. So we build that approach section out of concrete. He wanted us to use asphalt and use his material there, but he never provided us the material to use, so we never have tested the product.
Okay, the approaches on Haltom Road and Cary, do you plan on doing those in concrete?
We'll do them, not if we do the reclaim, no. If it were a complete reconstruction, as in option number 3, we would do the approaches.
Okay, and I guess this would be the city manager if, if we can get any relief on this from the county.
The county does not do any concrete work.
No, I'm talking about as far as the
funding?
The asphalt, if we go that with a thicker asphalt, can we get any?
Again, Chuck would be the person to ask.
Are you talking about funding from the county or
Materials?
labor forces?
Labor forces, funding, whatever we could get.
I think the county is really overextended with us this year. They haven't finished all their mill and overlay work yet. And as far as funding, the only funding source I know of available from the county is Community Development Block Grant. And like I said, we're committed to another project. In fact, the contract is, the design for that contract has already been done. So as far as I know, there's no funding available.
Anything further, Council Member Williams?
No, thank you.
Council Member Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just for clarification for me. Is it 2 inches of base will add, or 2 inches more of asphalt?
There's 2 types of asphalt. There's a base course, which has larger aggregate in it. It gives the asphalt some more strength.
Okay, so that's what you'd be be adding 2 inches of
Correct.
more of.
Stabilizing the base as well.
Correct.
I think that's
right. The soil stabilization is also referred to as base, and that is included in any of these options. And it's an 8-inch stabilized subgrade. We'll probably use lime in this case.
Anything further?
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion with regard to item number 15. Item number 16. Councilmember Williams?
Yes, sir. I was going to make a suggestion that we table this for one meeting until they can get exactly with us on the difference between 2 inches and 4 inches, but that's just a...
That is a good figure.
Can I make a motion we approve it then?
We have a motion to approve. Councilmember Averett? Councilmember Jennings?
I was wondering which option we're approving here.
Is that option 2?
Option 2.
Option 2, correct.
Okay, option 2 with,
I guess I'll read that, Mr. Mayor.
If you would clarify your motion.
I make a motion that we approve option 2 to replace the sewer and add curb and gutter and driveway approaches where there is none and reclaim pavement with 2 inches of asphalt.
Okay, you heard the motion. Councilmember Averett, do you accept that?
Yes.
For a second? Any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Henderson?
Yeah, to amend it to 2 inches more of that.
A total of 4 inches.
Total of 4 inches. Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to have a total of 4 inches.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Patino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just for clarification, Chuck. Did I understand you say that on option 2 we will not have concrete approaches?
Not a concrete approach at Haltom Road. The driveway approaches will be concrete, yes, in option 2.
But not at the intersection there of
Correct. There will not be a concrete intersection.
Thank you.
Any further questions on the motion? If you will, gentlemen, register your vote. And it carries by unanimous vote. We come now to boards and commissions. Any resignations or appointments to be made tonight? There being none, okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Councilmember Hurley.
But I did manage to score 1. But I did manage to score 1. That's your cooperation. Option 2.
I've got
Councilmember Hurley?
I've got one appointment I'd like to make to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which will be G.H. Rumbo, 4229 Joy Lee, as an alternate for place 6.
Okay, you have heard Council Member Hurley's recommendation to ratify that. If you would register your vote, please. And that carries by unanimous vote. The attendance requirements, there's no need for us to address that because all of us are here. Let the record show that at 7 minutes after 9, the council will meet in executive session pursuant to section 551.071, .073, and .074.